Good afternoon. It's 5:02 p.m. and the regular session of Major LC Citizens Oversight Committee will come to order. I'm used to a different format on the agenda, so the way we'll do this tonight is Member Burden will offer the invocation. The pledge will be led by Member Yeager, and then we'll have the roll call, if that's all right with you. So please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for yet again another opportunity to come together in service of our great city. We thank you for the staff. We thank you for our police department. We thank you for all the members that are present today. God, we ask that you allow us to lead with wisdom, allow us to use our knowledge to impact our community, and allow us all to have a great impact on our community as we continue to do what you advise us to do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I have the roll call, please?
Committee members: Derryberry,
Present.
Burden,
Present.
Yeager,
Present.
Tepe,
Present.
Chair Voss.
Thank you. Present.
We have a quorum.
We have a new member, and welcome to Member Greg Tepe. Thank you for joining us, and it's been a while. What have you been doing in your spare time besides spending a lot of time on school district business?
I have 7 kids of my own and 7 grandkids now, so it was busy. And I'm teaching in Eastside School District.
Are you still?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Well, that's great.
My wife is a social worker for that district. You've probably seen her, Shannon. She's a social worker for the Eastside Union School District.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
All right.
Mr. Vos, can I one quick, just for the purpose of the record? I mean, we didn't need that last speech for the record, but make sure you guys are turning your microphones on as we start to progress through so that it captures everything. And we don't have to bring you back to re-record. It's like a take 2. We don't want to have to do that.
Sounds good.
All right. So, public business from the floor. There doesn't appear to be any public present, but if there were members present, they would, and wish to address the committee today, they would fill out a speaker's card and give it to the recording secretary, and then when the action items are called, we call upon you to give your comments. We have 2 items tonight. One is an action item which is on the consent calendar, which is approval of the regular meeting minutes of June 22nd, 2023. So a motion would be in order.
All right, I move to approve Measure LC Citizens Oversight Committee regular meeting minutes of June 22nd, 2023.
Thank you. Have a second, please? Anyone?
Second.
Thank you. All right then, any further comments, anything from staff on this? Nothing? All right then, please vote. Motion passes 4 with 1 abstention. So the motion carries. New business. So we're going to receive a update on the fiscal situation of the city as well as mid-year budget review.
Welcome, welcome. I feel like we don't see each other enough. since our last meeting was in June, you approved the minutes. So I'm gonna need to hang out with you guys more often, so I need to know where there's an opportunity to do that. I don't think every 6 months or however many months it's been is good enough. So with that, tonight we do have the Measure LC update, which is a summary, more so a presentation of the activities, not so much the financials. And I'll end the presentation with how much we've received and a discussion about how the list of Measure LC projects was originally approved back in June. There's no recommended change to that as of the mid-year review. But more importantly, we're going to give you an update from the department heads that manage those activities today to kind of give you an idea of what we've been doing with the funds. And that is way more important and way more fun than me talking about how we accounted for them. But they have been coming in quite nice. I'll go over the last 4 years of performance of the fund, or I'm sorry, of the revenue, as compared to what we thought it was going to be. Once again, we thought it was going to be around $12 to $13 million revenue. Turned out to be a $21 million revenue annually. So it's actually performing very, very well. And so with that, Chief is going to come up first. He's got an engagement that he has to attend to here shortly with the mayor. So I moved him to the front of the presentation, but I'll turn it over to our police chief, Rod.
Evening, Chief, and welcome.
Glad to be here. It's good to see all of you. Thanks, George. All righty, so a lot has been going on. This is part of it. I got sworn in on I think it was the 22nd of September. So we are in full bore and we're in the process of hiring our officers. In fact, we have interviews going next week. So things have been going very well. And our partnership with the Sheriff's Department is phenomenal, and we're having some successes already without even well, I guess we do have one single officer, two including my assistant chief, but we've been having some successes already, and I'm glad to report that to you. So to give you a little bit about what's happening. So we went ahead and we built a drone program, and we did that because of problems with air support from the Sheriff's Department. As you all know, we live in a very windy valley, and it's quite difficult for the helicopters to get over the mountains when the wind is going. So the drone program basically is fantastic. We used to have the fixed wing plane, and this absolutely is a better option. We're able to give more air support. We're able to give 16 hours of air support, where with the fixed wing plane, we're pretty much given 5 hours a day for 5 days a week. Once we're said and done, we'll be able to give 16 hours of air support for 7 days a week. And this is an example of the first vehicle that's been built. The camper shell gives, and the box is a command center that allows us to pull up and see what the drone is actually seeing. That drone also has every capability that a helicopter has, including what they call FLIR, which is night vision, works on body heat, and it also has a loudspeaker on it and a spotlight. And amazingly, the loudspeaker is louder than the one on the helicopter, and that's because the speaker has to deal with the rotor wash. So whereas on the drone, it does not. And it has one more feature that the helicopter does not have, and it's a tracking device. So we can fix that device on a vehicle, and the pilot can stand back, and it'll lock onto that vehicle and follow it everywhere it goes. So it's really an amazing vehicle, and it can fly. We thought it was 40-mile-an-hour winds, but we're now being told it can get up to 50-mile-an-hour winds. We can deploy it, no problem. So we're really excited about this, and we use it for city functions as well. So just wanted to give you a good look at the drone. So the spotlight is that black box that you see on the side, and then the speaker obviously is the loudspeaker. So we broke ground on our brand new police station. And as you know, it's going to be right here at the old Antelope Valley High School District building. So they broke ground on that last Wednesday, and they are underway, and we have an expected move-in date of June the 30th. Would love to see you all come to the ribbon cutting ceremony. This is instrumental because it is the key thing we feel that really is going to help us affect crime and quality of life issues within the valley. And obviously, it's going to house our officers and the other individuals who are going to work for the department. But we are making it a community-friendly building. We're going to offer it to community organizations and associations to come in and use our space when they need to, if they have something that, you know, they want to put on or some event they want to do. I want to let you know that one of the wonderful things about inside that building is going to be our Intelligence Crime Assessment Center. And this is the key thing, I believe, to helping us stay on top of what's happening in our valley as well as nationally. So basically, it's a real-time crime center, and the many technologies that we're bringing in, you probably heard that we brought the flock cameras in, which are automatic license plate reader cameras. We're bringing in AI systems. We brought in a shot spotter system, which I'll show you a printout from that here in a second. And we're putting cameras all around the city. We're going to man this center, and they'll be able to monitor all the cameras, as well as all these systems, as well as communicate with other, they're called ICAC, other ICAC or real-time crime centers around the nation. They'll be tied into a national intelligence network. And the really good thing about being able, besides staying on top of what's happening within our valley, is also being able to speak with those other organizations, identify crime or issues that are occurring across the nation, give us ideas on how to ensure those crimes don't start to happen in our city. So we're highly excited about that, and it is definitely. I'll tell you this: I know of three departments right now that have this, and that's LAPD, the LA Sheriffs, and Beverly Hills Police Department. I have not been able to find another agency that has gone this far and built this type of center in the county. There may be some out there that are working on it. Quite possibly, I think Pasadena either has one or are working on it as well. But these are the new way to keep your city safe. I mentioned ShotSpotter a moment ago. We just went live on that. We're coming up on a month now, I believe. So this is just an image that shows what gunshots look like or are happening in the city. So when you pay attention to this, the circles are the ones that were actually determined to be gunshots. The red circles were believed to be gunshots, and deputies went and found proof that it was not actually a gunshot or didn't find evidence of a gun being fired. Those other squares are kind of outside of our realm that we have right now, because we've covered a portion of the city because it's a test case like everything else. And once we see the system is really effective for us, we'll expand. But those other squares are outside of where we have our sensors placed, and it's still picking up what's believed to be gunshots there. This system is 95% accurate. And the real value of it is it gives us the ability to get aid to victims sooner. What's amazing is this is just a 20-day snapshot. And the numbers you see are the numbers of rounds that were fired out of a gun those days.
Did you say 20 days?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So keep in mind the squares were not verified. The squares were not verified, so and they were outside of our realm of capture. But that's just how good the system is. You know, what you learn from these things, amazingly and surprisingly, is that there's many gunshots that are fired in a city, and you do not get a phone call about it. No one calls. It's just a daily occurrence. So this system sends officers there, and it is so well made and so accurate, it puts them within feet. Way back when I was a patrol officer, when we used to ride horses and stuff, we we had this system, and it wasn't quite as accurate. It would tell you, hey, there's a gunshot fired in the vicinity of such and such address. And then we'd go out and we'd have to kind of scan the area and look for evidence. This thing puts you within feet. And what the officers receive is an image of the street and dots that show this is where your shell casing should be. So your victim should be right around that. And it also gives them, which I think is extremely important, it gives them a sound snap that they can listen to of those guns going off. So you could imagine going to, hearing that and realizing you're going to something that goes pop, 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 pop versus brrr is very important to that officer because he realizes he's about to go into machine gun fire. Right. So this thing is phenomenal, and it's already showing us advantages. So we're highly excited about it. So this is our virtual training simulator that we're purchasing. And let me just get to the page because I always forget the name of this thing. It is the Recon 180, and it's made by a company called ITI. So sometimes in the past, they've been kind of known as a shoot, don't shoot trailer because or simulator because they use them to train officers to, try and figure out what they're dealing with. And it's usually one screen. Well, we're purchasing one that's going to have 5 to 6 screens. So it'll have the ability for the officer to deal with a situation where the individual could literally walk around this room. And what I love about these systems is they're loaded with thousands of systems of training scenarios, but you can recreate any scenario. And so we can put a scenario in that deals with mental health, domestic violence, a school situation. And what I appreciate is that you're improving the officer's ability to communicate and deal with people. So you're controlling it, and if he's saying and doing the right things, you can bring that suspect down to where he needs to be. So you're teaching that officer. You can get a lot of it done with this, or this. So, and if he isn't, you can bring that suspect up if you have to. So the other thing we're going to do with it is we're going to invite community members to come in and go through the simulator because we want folks to understand what it's like to be a police officer. And we also want to get that valuable feedback from them on, well, you tell us, because sometimes they can give you information that'll tell you, you know what, if we're dealing with this type of individual or someone from this culture, wow, I didn't know that. You know what, that's what this means when an officer says something like this. So we're looking forward to bringing the community in, and you gentlemen will all be invited to get a turn. So, I want to tell you about our police cars. You might have saw one parked out front. We just got them in, and that is the first vehicle that's wrapped. They are beautiful cars, and because our mayor and our council are so big on technology, I want you to know this is a high-tech police car. So that little bent L-shaped figure thing on the front here, front fender, that's the spotlight. And what they learned is that the old spotlights weaken the A-frame. So, and in accidents, they were finding times when that weakened A-frame caused injury to the officers. So they developed, this is new, they developed that light, and it's controlled by a remote control inside the vehicle. And it's a LED light, so it's much brighter. I apologize, I didn't bring the candle power with me, but it's much brighter, and it absolutely has the ability to go around, to go up, wherever you need it to go. So those are new here. Nobody else has those. And then the vehicle also has another feature in it called the Blueprint Sync system. You see how those lights are synced up? How they're all exactly synced up? So the way this works is, and I've been a victim of this, say you're in a pursuit or you're rolling to something and it's lights and sirens. Well, quite often, officers will forget to turn their lights off, turn their siren off, They might be dealing with a situation where an individual's coming out of a car with a gun, and one of the things they have to try to figure out is, okay, let me keep an eye on them, let me turn the lights off. When an officer hits that scene and sets his light, every other vehicle that comes up is going to automatically sync to what his car is doing. And it kind of scales down, so if the first guy forgets, when the next guy shows up and sets it correctly, that vehicle will sync in. So I haven't seen any other agency in Southern California that's had this either. I think it's not only a great officer safety feature, but I think it's a public safety feature, because you'll come to those scenes where you see lights going all over and one guy's telling you to go this way, the other light's telling you to go that way. Well, this way we sync them up and the public sees exactly what they need to see, and hopefully gets the direction that they need to take whatever action or direction they need to go. So that kind of completes my presentation. Those are some of the things that are coming and that we're working on right now. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Just real quick, you said the ribbon cutting was June 30th?
I'm sorry, sir?
The ribbon cutting, you said it was June 30th?
So we move in June 30th.
Oh, you move in June 30th.
So that's the date that they complete construction. And that's a pretty good date, because they start on the stadium July 1st. So we'll either be in there or in the parking lot, one or the other. But I went over, and they're doing amazing work, and I absolutely believe we'll be in there. And then the city will set a ribbon cutting ceremony. I hope you guys can all make it. Yeah, yes, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Most interesting and obviously a substantial portion of the major LC funds have been funding the effort over the last 2-3 years, and the results are extraordinary. You mentioned you were hiring the sworn officers shortly.
Yes, sir.
And they then will have all of the powers of any other police agency?
Yes, sir.
The powers to arrest and detain and all the other activities that sworn officers are involved in. Operating as a supplement and a support agency in some cases to the sheriff's department, but a primary lead in other segments ahead of the sheriff's department. Sounds like to me, if you're doing surveillance, aerial surveillance, and have the capabilities that the sheriff's department doesn't, you're sharing that information with them, correct?
Yes, sir. In fact, the drone program, when I got here, I learned of how these officers, and we got a fantastic sheriff's department. The deputies here are some of the hardest working. And some of you know I'm a 32-year retired sheriff's veteran. So these are some of the hardest working men and women I've seen. And so when I learned they didn't have the air support we needed, I went to the council and the mayor and said, we have to do something. And they said, get on it. And we developed that drone program. So that drone program was set for them prior to me even being sworn in, because we realized they needed it. So that's going to be a shared feature, as well as the Intelligence Crime Assessment Center will be a shared feature. And so is our flock cameras, our shot spotter, which is up. They're using those systems now. And we've even gone as far as to, because we have such an incredible camera system around the city, when I learned they didn't have access, we got with IT, and we've given them access to those cameras in emergencies. They can pull them up if it helps with what they're dealing with.
The results of those, the cameras around town identifying potential stolen vehicles and that type of thing, and various nefarious activities, it's been rather successful in this very short window, at least from what I'm hearing.
Yes, sir. The flock cameras, and those are automatic license plate reader cameras that are stationed around the city. If a vehicle passes one of those cameras and it's wanted anywhere in the nation, the sheriff's department is immediately notified. As soon as we get our center up, our officers will be notified as well. And that's anything from a stolen car to a murder suspect. And the first week first couple weeks they were up, just a vehicle or person, because you have the ability to say, okay, it was a green Honda with a football sticker in the back window, and we've got 3 letters possibly from the license plate. Deputies and investigators can put that into the flock system, and it'll let them know everywhere that vehicle has been within our city, and if they expand it, even outside of the city, as long as they have flock cameras, so.
Extraordinary.
Yes, sir.
I have another question. I know you guys typically do, well, the sheriff's department was doing it, like coffee with the deputy and things like that. I know you mentioned the new police station kind of being community-based and having people to come in and have events. Are there any plans for some sort of like regular meetings with the community to kind of improve relations? Because I asked because you said it's amazing how many people don't call the police when gunshots go off.
Yeah.
And if I may speak freely about that, you know, people that look like me don't like calling the police because we feel like they don't have our best interests in mind. And me knowing you, like, you know, since you've been here, you've been amazing.
Appreciate that.
And you're always out in the community. And so will peace officers and more people that you hire kind of take the approach that you've taken, which is being out in the community, building with us, doing things like that, so that there can be kind of like a restored trust, and so that maybe we won't be afraid to call the police if there's something happens like that, you know, because that's a safety issue either way you cut it, you know what I mean? Like the fact that somebody doesn't want to call the police and they might actually be in danger or something, you know what I mean? It's like that's something that I feel like there needs to be a way for us to improve those relations and restore trust. And this whole community-led policing, I think, is a great step in that direction. But I just wanted to know specifically if there were any plans with the new space to kind of, you know, forge some bonds like that.
Absolutely. In fact, the biggest part, and Commissioner Vos brought up, you know, the difference. So the big, I just want to tell you guys, understand that nothing that you know is going to change regarding the Sheriff's Department now. They'll be the ones who respond to calls for service. You know, 911, they're going to get that call. My car was broken into, I need a report. They're going to get that call. Our officers are going to be, we're going to be a no-call department, and we're going to focus on, the big thing is community engagement, as you mentioned. So we're going to be holding numerous town halls, doing community surveys, partnering with community organizations. You know, that's what that community-led policing really means. And we're already doing that. Our block clubs are expanding. Our business watch groups are expanding. We'll be, and I want to make sure everybody knows we're doing this. We're going to do it with the Sheriff's Department because we understand that we don't want to, the community has to trust all of us, all law enforcement. So what we do must involve them as well, and we want it to. We want to get that trust back for all police officers out there. So you'll see a lot of that. I think I mentioned to you about the Prayer Fridays. One of my favorite things. We're going to get a pastor and pastors and church organization together, and it won't just be your typical clergy council. If we have a problem location, like Sierra Highway, for example, if we see that we need to, we're going to go out there for 4 or 5 Fridays in a row and pray in front of the problem. And, you know, you're getting your higher power involved because we all know God can solve anything, but you're also bringing a problem to light. And most things that are wrong kind of try to survive in darkness. So yes, heavy community involvement.
Good, thank you,
Yes.
Chief, we appreciate
Yes, sir. Thank you.
your presentation, thank you.
Oh.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Sonia Patterson, I'm the director of the Parks Department. So Parks has had a busy year and we're not done yet. Some of the things we've accomplished in our art and public places, the installation of 2 public art pieces. Super Bloom, which is located on Lancaster Boulevard and 10th Street West, was created by artist Joseph O'Connell and is a captivating public art piece that combines the vibrant colors of the wildflowers found here in our valley and the city's renowned aerospace industry. And we also have Lifelines, which is an interactive augmented reality exhibit. and is accessible to the public via Nancy Baker Cahill's free Fourth Wall AR app. And Nancy Baker Cahill, that's a mouthful, sorry, is the artist who produced this augmented reality art piece. So Lifelines, you download that app when you're on the Prime Desert Woodlands. It's geolocated at the Prime Desert Woodlands. You have to be there to access it and see it. But you download that free app, and you can interact with the Joshua trees, and there's 3 towering Joshua trees, as you can see here in this picture. And they are enveloped in a ghostly murmuration of birds and the sounds of the nature and landscape of our Prime Desert Woodlands. And the piece reflects the diverse flora and fauna in our region. And coming soon, we'll have the installation of 2 bike murals in key corridors in the city. So we're continuing to expand our public art program. And we have our Lancaster Performing Arts Center, which we refer to as LPAC, is alive and vibrant with a phenomenal lineup this year. We've already had 12 sold-out performances, including Felipe Esparza, Mariachi Los Camperos, as well as a number of our Arts for Youth shows. In addition, we had headline performances featuring the renowned Richard Marx, Daughtry, Storm Large, and Ray Lynn. LPAC is deeply committed to fostering the next generation of arts through its robust Arts for Youth programs, which offer unique performances and workshops for the youth in our valley, and that's aligned with curriculum and lesson plans that the teachers can utilize with their students. And additionally, we've made significant improvements and investments over the course of this year in facility infrastructure improvements, such as our black box floor replacement and paint, replacement of flooring in our artist commons, and the completion of our LED light project. And our amazing community center that we're celebrating 2 years is abuzz. We've had over 8,000 patrons come through this community center since July 1st. And with our spring and summer programs kicking off, we expect that number to continue to grow and to reach and touch more of our community members. The community center, we are proud to offer something for everyone through affordable, inclusive programs for all ages and interests. So we've got camps there ranging from literacy and leaderships for teens, DJ workshops and STEM workshops, youth programs such as preschool playgroups, toddler classes, youth game days, reading clubs, and much more. As well as we've also evolved to include senior programming, such as fitness classes and social activities, as well as a number of special events are held there, from movie nights to game nights to family nights, holiday celebrations, community meet and greets. We're hosting some of the Coffee with the Deputies there, and just really having the community come and enjoy that space and connect with our other resources in the community. The center's varied learning spaces encourage patrons to explore their passion. So if you need computer time, visit our computer lab. If you have a creative idea, visit the makerspace or our arts and crafts room. One of our major facility improvements we undertook this year was the Sergeant Owen Memorial Park Hardcourt project. This was driven really by the community's desire for improved tennis and pickleball and basketball facilities. The rehabilitation of the hardcourt space went way beyond just simple resurfacing and repainting of the existing course. It's really transformed that space into a vibrant hub for multi-sport recreation. So those significant upgrades included the addition of 4 pickleball courts, which is the fastest growing sport in the nation, I think worldwide. It's on track to be an Olympic sport. So we have lots of passionate pickleball players in our community, as well as new landscaping, improved signage, new LED court lighting, 2 chilled water fountains, new benches and trash cans. So we've really improved the vibrancy of that area and upgraded it for our community. And lastly, our commitment to maintaining and improving all of our parks and facilities and open spaces is aimed at providing a safe, functional, and welcoming parks and recreation facilities for all residents. A few examples of maintenance improvements that we've undertook this fiscal year include the field renovations at the Lancaster National Soccer Center, which include field leveling, addition of soil amendments, fertilizer seeds, and new sod. We have a number of improvements at Raleigh-Duntley Park. We've replaced the outfield netting to protect the homes that are adjacent to Raleigh-Duntley Park, renovated the 2 baseball fields, and we've completed a number of sidewalk repairs in advance of the installation of a new playground, which will be underway in the next few weeks. Prime Desert Woodlands, we did a number of trail improvements throughout the facility. And at our Sergeant Owen Memorial Park, in addition to all the hardcore projects, we've also done a number of sidewalk improvements to increase accessibility for our patrons, as well as playground improvements, softball field renovations, smart lighting, and smart irrigation. So we have a lot of work, and our staff does an amazing job. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, just real quick, about the community center, I recall when it was before it opened, when we took the tour and everything, there was to be like a podcast and recording studio. It's my understanding that that's not up and running. I was wondering if there's any updates on that.
It's not currently. We are working through the process through our inventory of finding out what exactly we need to have there. We've got the 606, which has helped us through that process, and we're going through the purchasing processes and procurement process to secure those the needed equipment that we have there. So we're working on it.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
You've been busy. Good afternoon.
Hello, I'm Marisa Diaz. I'm the Public Works Director. Cleanup within the city's public right-of-way is a team effort. The Public Works Department employs full-time and part-time staff on the tide crew and the graffiti removal crew. In addition, Public Works contracts for illegal dumping services to supplement staff efforts. Community is the most important member of the team, and Public Works actively partners with several community groups. In September of 2020, the city formed the Tide Crew, a team dedicated 100% to combating illegal dumping throughout the city of Lancaster. The crew consists of 2 full-time employees and 7 part-time employees. Since the team was created, we have responded to 6,775 service requests, 15,003 locations. We've hauled 3,516 tons of waste. We've picked up 2,581 mattresses. We've collected 1,864 tires, and we've expended 16,623 staff hours to clean up illegal dumping. The graffiti removal crew consists of 1 full-time employee and 1 part-time employee. Together, they are responsible for identifying, documenting, and removing graffiti within the city's right-of-way. Over the last 3 years, we've responded to 6,668 service requests. We've serviced 12,684 locations. We've painted over 20 football fields worth of square footage. And we've expended 7,888 staff hours to remove graffiti. In December of 2020, to supplement staff and handle the larger sites, we began contracting for illegal dumping services. The contract allows the Tide Crew to stay mobile and address the smaller sites before they get bigger. Since the contract was created, the contractor has hauled 3,188 tons of waste. They've worked 689 days for a total of 7,449 hours. Finally, and most importantly, community involvement is a critical component for maintaining clean and healthy neighborhoods. The city has partnered with several community groups to adopt sections of roadway to coordinate cleanup events. Rollout and continued participation has been very successful and very positive. Now, a little bit about our AV Regional Evacuation and Event Center. The entire building will be up to 140,000 square feet. In the main event space, shown here in yellow, we will be able to house up to 1,000 evacuees, 8 basketball courts, 16 volleyball courts, 32 pickleball courts, and many other sporting events in a protected, safe, secure, and climate-controlled space 24/7, 365. The space can also be configured for graduations and concerts, conferences, and a number of other special events. Around the perimeter of the main event center, we'll have all the supporting facilities and ample additional space to provide operational flexibility and maximum use. So we can close off different parts and use whatever we need, and we have several flex spaces as well. The Regional Evacuation and Event Center building will advertise for construction next week. We will begin construction in the fall of this year, and then we're scheduled to complete in October of 2025. And with that, I can answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. So the website that the public can use to report issues to Public Works, that's still up and running, and I know I utilize it. But the Tide crew, they just circulate around the community, or do they react to the notices from the public?
They do both. They respond to our Comcate system complaints, and then they also have regular routes that they run so that they can monitor what's going on.
The typical deposit sites on a Monday morning, huh?
Yeah, a lot of times, like before the first of the month, there are typical places where people dump as they're, leaving their place of residence. So there are quite a few places where it happens often.
2,000, how many mattresses? Good grief.
Oh, yeah, it was, it was 2,100 and something, 2,581.
Does the city still allow the site to donate, not donate, but deposit mattresses on at
Yes.
the Public Works site?
Yes, over at the maintenance yard. Yep, and, yeah.
So if you want to dispose of a mattress, so you drive it somewhere out in the desert in the city and dump it at the side of the road, rather than take it to the yard on Avenue H.
Yeah, and we're working with comms to improve education and get the word out there so that more people know what's available.
Now, probably a portion of it, however, if folks are dumping more than a mattress is
Yeah.
not our A1 citizens, I guess, is maybe, for lack of a better description, I guess. Don't want to be rude, but I am being rude, I guess. They're being rude. Thank you. So what have you been doing in your spare time over there, George?
Writing checks, that's
So
all we've been doing.
Is this what you've been spending your money on?
This is what I've been
Yeah.
spending my money on, or your money on. Actually, before we leave the discussion about the event center, it's relevant to this conversation tonight because if not for Measure LC, we would not be able to finance the facility. And so on Tuesday night, the council is going to be taking action on a use agreement between the Fair Board and the city of Lancaster to actually fund that facility. That facility is expected to be about a $90 million facility. There's partnerships that have already been established with the city of Palmdale, the state of California through a grant where they provided $20 million of funding towards the facility. The school district, we're in talks with them as well, and a few other agencies to help fund that. And what the council is going to be looking at and considering on Tuesday night is a joint use agreement whereby we would be contributing $50 million to make sure that the facility gets built. Do we have $50 million laying around? No, but so we are going to actually go out and get a lease revenue bond and finance that infrastructure investment over a 30-year period. If not for Measure LC, we would not have that $3 million a year is going to cost for that debt service to fund that facility. And so it's very relevant. We've already to date spent, we've committed close to $6 million just in the design and the specs and preparing the bid to actually be advertised, I believe, by the end of this month. Yes. And so where we expect to go to market on those bonds in the May-June timeframe, and actually hope to have it funded and be able to rock and roll by July and August with the August start date. Included in that same financing will be raising money to finish the improvements at the municipal stadium, which is going to be converted from a baseball stadium to a soccer stadium, and that's going to be included. If not for Measure LC, we would not be able to do these things. And so that's why it's relevant and so relevant to the conversation tonight, and just want to make sure we tackle that. So we thank the community. And in turn, we're giving it back to them. A lot of the stuff that Rod talked about is very costly. That shot spotter, That, for example, that we're getting that on a trial basis, and that's why it's limited in scope into the space in the city that it covers, because that's the trial basis location that they chose. It's a hot area. To expand that, it's going to be some significant dollars to expand that throughout the city. We don't have a quote on that yet. We want to see how the trial goes, the trial period, which is free, which is how they're doing it now. And we'll be able to expand that once we actually can determine its effectiveness to see if we're going to expand it throughout the rest of the city. All going to be paid for as a result of being able to have Measure LC. So real quick, let's talk about the actual money. What are we talking about? And I know Mr. Tepe or Tepe? I don't want to mess that. Tepe, thank you. We got that, guy? Because they were asking me earlier. And so, as I spoke before, this was originally estimated to be a $13 million a year bump to the general fund when it was conceived. We go out to ballot, put it on the ballot, it gets elected. We start getting money in, and in the first quarter of receiving it, we get $5 million. So I'm like, yeah, I think we're going to do a lot better than $13 million. And then in the first full year, 21-22, we received $22 million, and it's starting to level out, but it's still, for sake of argument, a $21 million revenue annually. In this current fiscal year, we had originally set a budget of $20,837,000. Since then, that was in April when we got the estimate from our sales tax consultant, HDL. Our latest estimate that we received in January, and it's going to do about $100,000 better than that. And so it's a $21 million revenue. It's not insignificant, represents pretty much close to 18%, 20% of our total general fund budget. And so cumulatively, by the time we get that last receipt in this fiscal year, it would have generated close to $70 million over that 4-year period. So this is looking at what the allocation was the last 2 years, or what was the focus. Now, I caution, because it was the way it was elected as a simple majority tax, we couldn't go out and say, we're going to use this money for this particular thing. The second you identify that the money is going to be used for a specific item, it makes it a special tax for that specific item, and changes the threshold. We've had this conversation with the committee before. It changes the threshold at which we would have needed to get it approved to a 2/3 level vote. And so our conversations are generally about what could we do now with the tax that we would not have been able to do without. And so we really try to focus our conversation around those things we're now able to do because we receive this tax on an annual basis. And so we generally come up with a group of things that we've added to the budget as a result of having the tax. There's a wellness facility project that we did strip from the project. It's been budgeted in prior years' funding. It's not requiring ongoing funding. So for 2024, we didn't add any additional funding to that project. And that project is going to be reconsidered here at the end of this fiscal year as well anyway. Public safety in 2023, we had $4.2 million of the revenue that was used. That's what we were spending on public safety. As that department has grown, as you can see, as evidenced through the presentation today, in the current budget, it's about 10.5. So if we're bringing in $21 million, half of it is being spent on public safety. The AV Event and Evacuation Center was originally programmed at $2.5 million for the first year. We had an additional $2.5 million this year. Annually, that's going to be about a $3 to $4 million annual obligation towards the debt service, as we described, once the financing is complete. City beautification, all of those projects that didn't get any new funding in 2023, a lot of those projects are still in progress. So the cities are now still deploying a lot of the city beautification and some of the things that were budgeted 2 years ago. And then we were able to add a few support positions. And as you know, once you hire somebody, you have to continue to support those people. So on an annual basis, that's really going to be a carve out that we're saying is supported with Measure LC dollars. And then expansion of the citywide camera system, which will ultimately be rolled into the public safety costs and kind of lumped in from a big picture standpoint to continue to demonstrate that the majority of the Measure LC dollars are going towards public safety. So with that, I'm available, and we really scheduled it. Typically, I would start, and Rod would close, because you gave him a standing ovation as he left. He would normally be my closer, but because he had another engagement he had to go to, we put him up front. With that, Marissa's available to answer any questions. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have, and we'll probably switch the order last time because I really like closing on that standing O, and I know I'm not going to get it.
Be surprised.
Well, you should though.
You should.
Because without you and what you've done with the money, we wouldn't have Rod.
Fair enough, fair enough.
You
So
know
let's
what?
give it up for him.
Yeah.
All right. So I baited you guys, you fell for it.
Yeah, when you got the mic, you got to do it.
Yeah,
so.
you got to do it. Well, one thing I do want to add, I did actually start this conversation out with we just don't see you enough. And I think that's, we have very few reasons to meet, right? We meet about at mid-year now. We're going to meet again in a few months to talk about budget. And then in October, we'll meet again and kind of tell you how the budget actually worked out after the council took final action. And so as I'm thinking, we're going to come up with more opportunities for you guys to actually get your hands on and see some of these things that we're talking about. And so as we're scheduling that ribbon cutting for the police department, as we're scheduling the groundbreaking and the ribbon cuttings for some of the art fixtures and some of those things that we're doing, we're going to make sure you guys get those invites and you're personally invited by the city manager and staff to make sure you're there and you're part of that process too. So it just kind of get your hands on it as opposed to seeing this presentation every 3 or 4 months and make you part of the process.
I appreciate that.
It's nice to get out there and enjoy some of the improvements too, because I'm a big pickleball guy, so
Oh, okay.
I'm over there at Stephen Owens Park all the time now.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember presenting the budget 2 years ago and stood up here for 45 minutes presenting the budget, and the only people in the audience that pulled the card to talk about it were the pickleball people. They just want to make sure that their pickleball courts were in the budget. They had a $250 million budget. They want to make sure that their pickleball courts were in there.
You know, George, there's been a considerable amount of discussion in the community over the last many years relative to housing of those less fortunate. I'm not going to label them any different than that.
Fair.
Because they could be me. And I could be them, I guess. Any thoughts on and how the city is or will participate with the organizations that are acquiring sites on the Sierra Highway and repurposing them for that type of clientele?
So we currently have 2 projects in the works where we are going to participate in helping to purchase the property and then sell them off to a third party that could do exactly what they just did with the project just there south of, where is that, south of the bowling alley, if you had a chance to drive Sierra Highway. I actually just drove past it on my way here to this meeting coming from down the hill, and I took a tour in the, what was that, December timeframe when we went over? And it's amazing what they've done with that project. And we did not participate in that particular project, but it gives us an example of what we can see when we actually commit some dollars to it. We do have other dollars, and so the Measure LC is a general fund revenue. We do have CDBG, Community Development Block Grant money from HUD that we do get, that we actually are intent on using to buy some of those properties. And then we also have housing money that we've been committed to doing just that, you know, for the reason you explained. So there's ways for us to be participatory in the process financially without necessarily contributing general fund monies to it.
Well, the health and safety element is a principal element of what our government's responsible for in our communities. So,
Absolutely.
I forget what the number of sites that are being proposed or being acquired by various entities, but there are others. And one recently, I don't know that it's on the market, but there's certainly a very nice facility that could be repurposed for a broad range of housing needs. So I hope somebody's looking at that real close.
We are. We have a team that's, afterwards, we have to go in and help clean up and do our part, but there is an active process to take some of those properties down and convert them into housing.
Particularly when it comes to a full-service facility as opposed to just housing,
Right.
Yeah.
if you will.
Understood.
I just had that conversation with someone yesterday, exactly what you're talking about, Chairman Vos, just like outside of just housing, providing them opportunities to get back on track. I mean, I think that our community's done a great job of providing resources, but I think, because this continues to be an issue in our community, like the fact that you just said, I mean, a lot of these people that are, transient or, in a bad season, these aren't, like, for all intents and purposes, bad people. We're talking about off of pandemic, people just lost their jobs, regular people that weren't able to pay when it was time to start paying. And so, definitely feel for those people in our community, because like you said, it could have been me, could have been any one of us, to be perfectly honest. So there are a few places. I don't know if anyone's taken a look at J and Division, where all that stuff used to be, but it's a giant eyesore over there now, and that would be a perfect place for some sort of facility like that. It's all torn down now, but that plot of land, I don't know where we're at on that, but
You'd be surprised, a lot of the support money are coming from programs that require those programs to come with the housing. And so it's to assist and help that very population of those folks that want the help. And that's where the money's being spent. But then we do have another element that don't want the help. And so we are doing our part to take care of those that want, so that we can have the ability to handle those that don't. And it goes hand in hand to ultimately reach the solution of cleaning it completely out.
I think part of it too, and if you talk to the folks that are providing various services in the community, the nonprofits and others who are providing services to folks in whatever class or category you want to put a label on, there's a substantial amount of folks that have mental issues that are not capable of coping in provided housing. They just aren't, because of their medical condition. And there's a substantial number of those, and I've heard it from experts that I am involved with through a nonprofit that are telling me that in their field interviews and working with those folks, camping out in the middle of Lancaster Boulevard or over here by the sheriff's station or wherever they happen to be, their mental capability is such that they cannot accept and will not accept the standards that they're required to meet, minimum standards are required to meet for housing purposes.
Right.
So there's got to be other solutions. I don't know what those solutions are. I don't know if the city is even capable of coming up with those solutions. I don't know what government can really do.
Right.
But the nonprofits that are dealing with them certainly are giving me feedback that said that there's that segment that just won't take help. And it's a substantial amount of the folks we see out there.
Right. And they're the ones that need it the most, quite frankly.
I don't know the answer,
Right.
but our community is concerned about it, and you hear it all the time and all the negativity, why don't you fix it?
Not that easy.
I don't know that there's a fix.
Right.
I'm quite certain it's much more difficult to execute than it is to talk about. I'm quite certain. So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, go behind your shop out there, right? You get them camping out behind your place of business
Yes, we do.
and breaking into your vehicles and all the other stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And it's just, I don't know. But they're human beings, and you hate to see folks in that state.
Yep, agreed.
But the city is doing a great job with the resource we have overall. I mean, it's extraordinary. And this Measure LC opportunity at $20 million a year is a godsend. It really is.
Absolutely.
You've done, and you and your various departments that have done an excellent job administering it and recommending to the city council the appropriate expenditures. And they've been very receptive.
They have. They're very supportive of
We're very fortunate.
your group's direction and, well, confirmation of our recommendations as well.
See, I think one of, you know, over the years, all of the volunteering and work I've done with the city and within the valley, I've kind of become this de facto person that people call. And I often get people call me and say, hey, when I purchase something online, there's a Lancaster 0.25 charge that's added on my online order. What does that go to? And I said, it goes right back into the community. Well, what do you mean? So the things I always hit on, public safety and the arts. Because those are the two things I think, for the most part, the community, it's really like almost a tangible thing. Like you said, the pickleball players.
Yeah.
My mom is an avid pickleball player, and so she always asks about the courts, right? But it's having something that's tangible that the community can see and feel, and I think that will help providing some of the benefits to the part of our community that needs it, like what Jim and Devin were talking about, you know. And I know the way that you have to comprise your budget as it relates to this. And I think spending the dollars on these three departments the way that you have, I think will almost organically give us what we need to in some of these other things. You know, having the visualization of the Lancaster Police Department cars, might have been Rod, probably was Rod, driving home. Late last night, I was going to pick up my daughter from gymnastics, and the Lancaster, his Durango drove past us. And one of my daughters said, what's that? I haven't seen that cop car. The papa's a cop. And my family, their papa's a cop. He's a retired cop. So just that visualization of having the cars on the street really helps. And without these monies, we probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to do it. I know that our mayor and our city council were dead set on this, and they have been for a number of years, given the need. But without the Measure LC funds and without that charge that us as consumers have to pay, we're not going to have a better Lancaster. And that's what I always explain as somebody who volunteers in the city is that this is the reason why you're paying that, and this is what it's going to. You can see it, you can tell. You know, when you drive around other cities, there's graffiti everywhere. You know, I challenge you to drive around the city of Lancaster, and within 48 hours, seeing the graffiti there twice. Right. So you don't see that anywhere. We just went down to Staples Center, or whatever it's called now, and they've got those big towers with all the graffiti on them. Yeah. That's not happening in Lancaster, no. So. Yeah.
It helps to not have any buildings over 4 stories in Lancaster, but.
That's true. That's true. So George, you know, my hat's off to you. You know, running a business of any size, managing money of any kind, you know, especially when you got this many, you know, zeros or you know, decimal places is a difficult task. You know, and I know a lot of times in the community it's hard to stomach seeing, you know, 7 figures going to some purpose, 8 figures going to some purpose. But when you see it going to public safety, you've seen it go into these kinds of programs. You know, you watch what's happening in the community, you know, with the license plate detection, for instance. You know, you're seeing people's cars who are being stolen, they're getting recovered relatively quickly, and the people are being arrested. Now, whether the DA does something is another story, and I'll leave that for another forum. But in any event, you know, that stuff wouldn't happen if it wasn't for these monies, and so thank you for that.
All right. One other nuance I think about the Measure LC tax that I think it's important for us all to understand is the way the district tax works. And I know, Mr. Yeager, in your business, it's a perfect example of kind of where I'm going with this. One of our top 10 providers of the tax is CarMax in Palmdale. And you're thinking, well, hold up, how is Palmdale's CarMax one of our top 10 providers of the tax generation here? How it works in the district tax and how it's separate from our typical Bradley Burns sales tax is that if, no matter where that car is purchased, if it's purchased by somebody with a 93534 zip code, if they're in Lancaster zip code, that tax, that 3/4 of a cent tax is added onto their vehicle and sent back to us. And so when we run the report, and I don't know if Mr. Yeager's seen the report.
I'd like to, though.
Yeah, I got to think about it if I can. We're getting sales from dealerships as far as the Inland Empire. We're getting sales from dealerships as far as San Diego County. So if somebody, let's just say, Devin, you want to buy that new BMW, it's really nice. We don't have a BMW dealership. Just know that wherever you buy that BMW, that 3/4 sales tax is coming back to your community. And so that's important to know, is that no matter where our people shop, for rolling stock is what it's considered, that money does come back here no matter where they buy it. We would love for them to buy it here, because I'm sure Mr. Yeager would as well. Then we get the sales tax as well as the district tax from that sale. But in the event that it slips across the border and goes to Palmdale or anywhere else, that money comes back here. And that's an interesting nuance related to a district tax that is not the same as how the Bradley Burton sales tax works.
Now, if we could just figure out how to do it on motor fuel purchases
Right.
for
That
the
would be nice.
commuters that buy fuel down below, just think of the revenue that you'd have to spend. Figure that out.
Well, it's state code that allows it for the vehicles.
I'm trying to figure out what 3/4 of a cent costs for a new Rolls Royce. Have you got it figured out?
Not yet, but I received that BMW in Jesus' name. I received that.
So with that, unless you have any more
We're
questions.
having too much fun. All right, well, thank you. Thank you, George. So we're done for the day, it looks like, and unless there's anything else, members want to add?
Good work. Thank you, staff.
Thank you.
Outstanding, outstanding. We have no members of the public to talk to us, so we'll stand adjourned to the next meeting, which will be